In this video, I'm going to talk about if 1080p video is good enough in 2021. And if it is, what sort of environments does it work best in, like YouTube videos, personal videos, or even professional environments. And so for this, I want to go over some footage from a video shoot that I went on pretty recently, where I actually mixed 1080p video with 6K video. And so for the shoot, I filmed all the A-roll in 6K, and then all the B-roll was filmed in 1080p. And so that's a huge difference between those two. So I really want to show you the footage back to back and see if you can notice a difference between the 6K and the 1080p video. And so I really hope this video clears up a lot of people's questions about if 1080p is just too little in 2021 when 4K is big now, 6K is really big. There's even a 12K camera that was released recently. So it seems like 1080p is just getting left behind more and more every day that goes by. And so I want to clear that up in this video if 1080p is still good enough for anything all the way up to professional shoots. And so if you've been around my channel for a while, you know that I talk about lots of budget cameras, and almost all these cameras I talk about are, only a couple $100s, and they only shoot 1080p video. They don't even go up to 4K or anything past 1080p. And so this video will show if those cameras that only shoot 1080p are still worth picking up versus all the 4K, 6K, 8K, and 12K cameras that are out now. And if it's really worth saving the extra couple $100s versus upgrading to a 4K camera. And so this is actually my first video with my A6400, so I'm filming in 4K right now. But I just wanted to say that if you go back to my previous videos, all the A-roll, which would be like what you're seeing right now, is all shot in 1080p, and it still looks pretty good. For YouTube videos, 1080p is still fine. I want to say that right now. 1080p is fine for YouTube videos 100%. But everything's a little different when you go into professional environments. So the shoot that I'm talking about and all this footage that I'm showing was a professional video shoot that I went on a few months ago. And so for the A-roll, for the 6K footage, I used a Zcam E2 S6. So like I said, I filmed this in 6K and I filmed in ProRes 422. So a really good codec, really high resolution video. And then for the 1080p B-roll, I shot this with the Canon C100 Mark I. And so the C100 records only 1080p at up to like 30 frames a second. I'm pretty sure I recorded this B-roll in 30 frames a second so I could slow it down a little bit versus the 24 frames a second. And also the C100 doesn't even offer like super high bit rates or anything like that. It just pretty much is standard 1080p video that most other cameras will record in. And so I'm gonna go ahead and throw up some of the 6K A-roll that I shot with the Zcam E2 S6 right now. And so that's what you're seeing right now. This is all shot in 6K. Now I did crop in just a little bit to get the framing right, but you're really not gonna notice the difference. This is just 6K footage. Now I'm uploading this video in 4K, so my whole timeline is in 4K. So the 6K footage is being downscaled to 4K, but it's still 6K footage. It's gonna be really sharp. There's definitely enough detail for really anything. I can crop in a little bit. I can do pretty much anything with this footage, and it looks amazing. And now, this right here is the B-roll. This is the close-up shots, everything else that I filmed for this video shoot. And this is 1080p. Now right off the bat, you're probably gonna notice a difference when you see it back to back. You'll definitely notice a little bit of a difference in sharpness. So this footage is literally a fraction of the resolution of the A-roll, but it still cuts together pretty well. I'm not saying I'm an expert or anything like that, but it cuts together surprisingly well for being 6 times less resolution. And so this right here is really just showing that lighting and that framing and everything else is so much more important than just resolution itself. And the C100 looks really good. It's a really good professional camera. It's nice and heavy, so it's not going to be super shaky. I had a nice lens on there, which was a Canon 24-105 f4 lens. It's all backlit to kind of give it more of a pleasing look, for B-roll, for kind of that close-up, B-roll aesthetic that I kind of wanted to get for this. And overall, it intercuts with the 6K pretty well. Now, it's definitely not ideal at all. It really would have been nice to have a 4K camera for B-roll, or, even another 6K camera so it could really be the same resolution. But this is all I had for this shot, and I'm really proud of how it turned out, even though it was definitely not ideal at all. But I really just want to show this to show that you do not need a 4K, 6K, 8K, or 12K camera to get professional looking videos. You just need good lighting, you need good framing, you need good lenses always help out. Everything else is much more important, good audio especially. Everything else is much more important than having higher resolution. Now, I did say that this is definitely not ideal because you can still see a difference, and especially when you run it back to back from 6K to 1080p, you can definitely tell the difference, and it's definitely not ideal. So in a professional environment like this, 4K is definitely going to be kind of where you want to shoot towards. You know, when you want to do professional video, you want it to look as good as possible. You want your clients to always be happy with how it looks. Alright, real quick, I'm editing this video right now and I totally forgot to mention something. So you may notice when I was showing that footage, the 1080p footage has much more noise than the 6K footage. And that's not just because I was using a higher ISO or anything like that. I was actually using the base ISO on the C100, as well as in the Z-Cam. But the reason it has so much more noise is because 1080p generally will always have much more noise than 4K or 6K or any higher resolutions because the pixels in the footage are a lot larger. So it's just gonna show a bunch more noise than those higher resolutions, especially when the 1080p is being upscaled to 4K and the 6K is being downscaled to 4K. So with that 6K footage, I of course recorded it in 6K, so the pixels are gonna be very, very small because there's so many pixels packed into the screen. And then once I downscale it to 4K, the pixels get even smaller, so it compresses the noise to make it almost invisible. However, with the 1080p footage, just being in 1080p on any sort of larger screen, it's gonna expand the pixels a lot and you're gonna see the noise much easier and the noise will be bigger. So in general, almost all the time, 1080p footage will just look noisier, which is definitely another thing to note, especially in professional shoots. It's gonna have more noise and it's gonna be much more noticeable. So basically 1080p footage has a lot of downfalls compared to high resolution footage, but if you do it right, you can still definitely use it for professional shoots. You just have to know its downfalls and know the limits of 1080p footage versus these high resolutions. But either way, I just forgot to mention that, so I wanted to let you know. Subscribe, let's get back to the video. The Canon C100 is an amazing camera. I'm actually gonna be releasing a video about that soon, so definitely stay tuned to subscribe for that. But you know, the $1,000 Canon C100 still performs very well, even though it's only in 1080p. So just let me know in the comments if you think it's worth spending 4, 5, 6 times as much to get these 6 to 12K cameras, or if you think 1080p is still good enough if you get good lighting and good framing and good audio and that sort of thing. I think if you are doing YouTube videos, if you're recording video just for, you know, yourself, for like home videos or anything like that, anything that isn't a professional shoot, 1080p is definitely good enough. And you know, you might notice a little bit of a difference versus 4K if you look at it back to back, but overall you can still make amazing videos with 1080p video. However, in a professional environment, I'd say you definitely want to shoot for something more than 1080p. 4K is the new standard and 1080p is really starting to phase out for especially professional environments. And I'd say definitely shoot for 4K if you're looking to get into professional video and you're looking at a new camera. Overall, it's going to be sharper, it's going to look better, and in a professional environment, it'll definitely help out. Like I said, let me know what you think between the 6K and 1080p footage. Do you think you notice a huge difference? Is it worth it for the extra price? Let me know what you think in the comments. But that wraps up for this video. I really hope you enjoyed this. Like I said, I'll be dropping a video about the Canon C100 soon. It's an amazing camera for a really good price point, so definitely subscribe for that. And also check out my other videos about, you know, really cheap budget cameras. I have a bunch of videos about Sony NEX cameras, and I pretty much base my channel around budget camera gear. So if you're interested in that, definitely stay tuned to subscribe. And so that wraps up for this video. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.